Many thanks for staying with us. We're still coming to you live from the Veneta Stadium. You just saw what this 9th edition of the Swakopmund International Trade Expo will look like. Got a small glimpse of that. And of course, we continue with our engagements as promised earlier. Now, the Switex Expo is not the only event taking place here in the coastal parts of the country. We are, of course, expecting an engagement that is between the Namibia-Ghana Joint Permanent Commission of Cooperation. And as promised, they will be here from the 2nd till the 4th of July in Swakopmund. This 5th JPCC is expected to review the implementation of bilateral agreements as well as memoranda of cooperation in a wide range of areas, including trade and commerce, agriculture, fisheries, transport, education and training, youth, sport, as well as culture, amongst others. Now, with more details on this meeting, I'm joined by none other than Namibian High Commissioner to Ghana, that's Selma Shipala Musabi. A very good morning to you, Ambassador. Almost I say, welcome back home.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us, Ambassador.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Perhaps before we get into the details of this cooperation engagement, let's talk to us about some of the recent highlights as far as your work in Ghana is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. As you know, I've been in Ghana almost close to 4 years. And when I left Namibia to Ghana, I was given a charge by my president to basically strengthen the relations between Namibia and Ghana and contribute to the economic growth over here. So in terms of the highlights, we succeeded to access the Ghanaian markets. We are now exporting our beef to Ghana. And the significance of that is that this beef is coming from the northern communal areas, something that is very new. Another major event that I want to highlight, we learn from one another as Africans. We live in the era of the African continental free trade area, and you might have heard about the December in Ghana project, where Ghanaians have come up with a very innovative program to promote tourism in their country. So we thought, okay, why don't we draw lessons from this project? And in collaboration with the Namibia Tourism Board and a Ghanaian private company, we established what we call November in Namibia. It's basically a tourism and business project. It's a project dedicated to a specific time period, 7 days. Ghanaians come to Namibia for 7 days. 3 days is a business forum, and the 4 days is leisure. It was launched last year. We have a soft launch, and we are now going to go full out this year, basically to put content to cooperation between Namibia and Ghana, because, as you correctly mentioned, we have an MOU in cooperation in the tourism sector. So those are some of the highlights. Others will be announced when we have crossed the bridge.
Very much so. We'll get to that in a bit. Yeah. Ambassador, just looking at, of course, this 5th session of the Namibia-Ghana Joint Permanent Commission of Cooperation, or JPCC, I think we'll refer to it as that going forward. It's quite a mouthful. Talk to us about the journey that's been since the initial agreement to have this cooperation and since the first session up until now.
Okay. This is going to be the 5th session. The last session took place in Ghana 2022. So in terms of periodicity, we are quite on time because we are supposed to be meeting biannually. And the last time the Ghanaians came to Ghana, their delegation was led by a deputy minister. This time around, the foreign minister herself will be arriving tomorrow. She's leading the delegation, and she is also going to participate at the Switex. Because, as I said, we want to put economic content to our cooperation between Namibia and Ghana. So the cooperation has grown. We now stand at about 17 MOUs and bilateral agreements, both in the political, economic, in the social sectors, where we are really just trying to come together and put value to our work so that we can improve the living condition of our people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
What have been some of perhaps the hurdles in these engagements and really fast-tracking perhaps some of these agreements here?
You know, this is not the only permanent joint commission we have. It's just one of them.
True. Yeah.
And the perennial hurdle has been implementation of the MOUs and agreement that we have signed. So we are becoming innovative. We are saying, instead of us just coming together and decide, okay, we are going to have an agreement in this area, let's first bring the stakeholders together.
Yes.
Let's unpack the possibilities, the possible impediments. Let's prepare concept notes so that when we venture into the actual signing, we know exactly the takeaways for each. For example, Namibia is I think now the third largest producer of uranium. Okay? Ghana has established an atomic energy agency in 1963. They don't even have uranium. But in terms of the framework, they are far much ahead of Namibia. So we said, okay, this is a possible area of cooperation. How do we start? Let's first have a concept note. Ghana tell us what you have achieved in this area, and then Namibia also tell Ghana this is where we want to go. So by the time we come to signing the actual MOU, we know exactly what we are venturing into.
Fantastic. Yes. You've mentioned that we currently have about 17 agreements between Namibia and Ghana. Talk to us about the level of implementation of these agreements here.
The level of implementation, again, in terms of effecting implementation, we have brought something new, which is called the Joint Technical Committees. So every MOU have a technical committee from Namibia and Ghana. These senior officials come together and they are responsible for spearheading implementation of those agreements. So what we are going to do now, starting tomorrow, these technical committees are going to meet. And they will tell us this is where we are. Because it's not important. It's not really the number of agreements that matters. Is how are we implementing these projects to impact on the lives of our people. That is what they expect of us. So we are very much excited about the forthcoming session. And we are hoping that we can report actual implementation.
Ambassador, perhaps a key question that people often have when it comes to these bilateral agreements, especially on such a level, is for lack of a better word, the fairness of it, so to say. And when you're looking at the scales of economy, especially between Namibia and Ghana, for instance, but how are we ensuring that these agreements, that these sessions, etc., really provide equal opportunities, both beneficial to both countries here?
When you enter an agreement with any other country, you are basically looking at two things. You are looking at a deficit in that sector in terms of perhaps you are lagging behind, and you are also looking at filling a vacuum. Maybe you have not yet thought about cooperation in that area. And this is why we are saying, let's be innovative. Let's sign agreement knowing exactly what is it that we want to get out of this agreement, because that is the only platform you have in terms of engaging between Namibia and other countries. So it's not that difficult. I think what we really need to do is simply to put more efforts in terms of bringing the stakeholders together, but also remembering that development between countries is not just a government affairs. The private sector has a very important role to play, and this is why the foreign minister of Ghana is going to participate in this Swatex.
Fantastic.
Government lays the foundation, but then the main players is the private sector. So we need to bring the private sector together so that we can benefit from the African continental free trade area.
We're happy to see that there's private sector involvement at that level as well. Ambassador, do we expect any agreements to be signed during this fifth session?
Yes, we are expecting 4 agreements. Very important cooperation between our SMEs. I think that is an area where we can tap into the experience of Ghana. Then the second one is cooperation in the area of health. They have a lot of people in the diaspora. And I think Namibia can benefit from that. The other one is cooperation in terms of drug law enforcement. Illicit trafficking of illicit drugs is on the increase. We need to protect our young people. Those are some of the of the MOUs that we expect to sign. And then the last one is between the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center and the Namibia Women's International Peace Center. So those are the 4.
Fantastic stuff.
Yes.
Ambassador, if you could briefly take us through perhaps this 2-3-day program, would highly appreciate that. Yes.
Okay, the senior official, the JCC is always having 2 parts. The senior officials will meet tomorrow over 2 days because it's the clearinghouse. We will review implementation. We'll prepare the agreed minutes for the ministers. That will take 2 days. And then we prepare the joint communique. And then on the 4th, the ministers will then meet. They'll have their opening session. After that, we have also infused in an industrial site, a site visit to industrial site. So we are taking them to the port to show off our port. They are going to visit some salt companies, and then after that they come back, they close, we sign the agreements, and then we have the closing session, and hopefully we would have dedicated ourselves for increased cooperation and higher implementation of our implementation so that we elevate cooperation between Namibia and Ghana.
Very much indeed. I'm glad that you're saying that we're going to show off our port facilities because we should. Namibia has so much to offer.
We should. We should market ourselves.
Very much indeed. I've had the pleasure last year of being with you in Ghana, attending the 53rd World Trade Centers Association's General Assembly. And I really got to see the work that you're doing there. I got to see the efforts that Namibia is putting into this partnership between Namibia and Ghana. And I know you also have exciting news for us that you can't at this point touch on. But just reflecting on that particular occasion, the 53rd General Assembly of the World Trade Centers Association and how that has perhaps further amplified relations between Namibia and Ghana on a diplomatic level.
That participation was really an eye-opener. Yes, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, but that doesn't mean that we isolate ourselves. So we have been inundated with invitations for Namibia to continue to participate in World Trade Center Association. Our Minister of Trade was actually in Miami, invited. We are now looking at how we could derive maximum benefits. And for your information, there are other things that, I cannot yet mention. But the good thing is that September this year, the Accra World Trade Center is fielding a business delegation to Namibia. Now, these are not only Ghanaians. They are going to have delegates from all the World Trade Centers in the world. And that is really as a result of our participation at the last General Assembly in Ghana. And I want to take this opportunity to thank and really commend NBC. You did a fantastic job in terms of exposing our people what Namibia is doing to contribute to our economic growth policy at home.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. So we wish you all the best with this 5th session of the Joint Permanent Commission of Cooperation. May it be successful and may it yield very positive results here.
Thank you very much and keep it up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, High Commissioner of Namibia to Ghana, Selma Ashipala Musavi, talking to us there about the 5th session of the Joint Permanent Commission of Cooperation. Of course, they are meeting here as well. It's not only Switex that's happening, but of course, this 5th JPCC is happening as well. As you heard there from Ambassador, from High Commissioner Ashipala Musavi, it is going to be a very big occasion to reflect on the last sitting, the last agreements. 17 agreements currently exist between Namibia and Ghana, with a further 4 expected to be signed during this 5th session. Of course, high-level delegates will be here. They'll also be touring some of the local facilities that we have here, such as the Namibia Ports facility, for instance. And of course, really, we just wish them all the best with this 5th session of the JPCC.